Hey 7th graders, Mr. Chamberlain back here with video lesson number 2 for April 20th, 2020. So, the first lesson was all about low life expectancies and what's causing this in many countries in Africa. The other thing we're going to look at this week are environmental challenges. And so these are things that are associated with the environment that had proved to be challenges for the people of Africa to face. The first one I know you're very familiar with, and that's desertification. So we did an big project of this actually up until the last day of school in March. Your shoe boxes full of sand and African animals and grasslands are still up in my classroom as we speak. Hopefully you'll be able to get those back someday. So just to review, desertification is the process of which fertile land where you can grow food and raise animals for food is turning into desert. And now, why is that a problem? Well, that's a problem because, as I mentioned in the last video, malnutrition or a lack of food is a huge issue in Africa. And when you have even less farmland, that's going to equal less food for people and for animals. And that could lead to more starvation on the continent. So, just to review with you, what's causing this desertification to take place? The first cause that we talked about was drought, which is the lack of rain. Africa's got some very dry areas, and that lack of rain is causing deserts to spread. Deserts like the Sahara and the Kalahari and the Namib, and areas of desert on the Horn of Africa. The next one is overuse of the land by farmers. So farmers are reusing the land over and over again. This makes the soil unfertile, or no longer fertile, dry and brittle, and makes it more at risk of turning into desert, and will not support future crop growth. The third cause is overgrazing. So this is in areas like the Sahara where you have cows and cattle and other animals that are being raised for livestock eating the grasslands faster than they can grow back, and they go around, they stomp on their roots, and then it won't grow back, and you kind of leave these big dirt patches on an area that's bordering the Sahara Desert where it's going to be turning into desert as the Sahara Desert's getting larger and larger. The last one is the wind. So this is also impacted by deforestation, the cutting down of trees. We looked at those sandstorm pictures when the sand gets picked up by the wind in the air and then deposit on top of the grasslands, and that smothers the grass. That's the one that we showed in our boxes of the Africa project. And those four things, sometimes it's one thing, sometimes it's more than one thing in an area, but that's all leading to these deserts of Africa getting larger and larger and larger. Now, the next thing I want to talk to you about for environmental issues is the lack of safe drinking water. Now, in the last video, I mentioned that this is a big cause of low life expectancies in Africa. There are millions of people, hundreds of millions of people in Africa that do not have access to safe drinking water. Now, it's not just for hydration purposes. It's also for hygiene, washing your hands, for sanitation, removal of waste products, for laundry needs, for cooking, and so on. Africa does have a lot of water resources, but they're not evenly distributed throughout the continent. And then a lot of people don't have the tubes and the infrastructure and the pipes to bring running water to their communities. And so what do they have to do to get water? They actually have to go fetch it. This is where you're going to send people out, and this sometimes could be a very long journey. It might be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 miles in one direction to fetch water and then bring it back to your community. Now, most of the time in the communities, it is the women's job or the girl's job to go fetch the water. So think about this. If you have to walk 4 miles to go fetch water and then 4 miles back carrying this heavy jug of water back, that is time taken away from your education, from you working. There's a lot of time wasted in Africa by fetching water. And so many girls don't have the access to go to school all day because they're spending the day fetching water for their families. Now, we also mentioned poor sanitation. So a lot of the water that people do have access to is what we call tainted water. It is unsafe for them to drink. It is going to cause them to become ill, and sometimes fatally ill, through different diseases of drinking water that is tainted because of improper sanitation and poor filtering. Now I want to share some facts with you guys about water in Africa. This is an article that we would have read in class. I'm just going to kind of pick to highlight a few of the different facts. Here's the first one. 319 million people in Sub-Saharan Africa, so that's Africa south of the Sahara, are without access to improved, reliable drinking water sources. That is very close to the entire population of the United States when you look at numbers. Next fact, 2/3 or about 102 million of the 159 people still using surface water live in Sub-Saharan Africa. So this article says that there's about 159 people around the world still using surface water as their primary water source, and 102 million of those 159 million live in Africa. Right now, the past few weeks, we've obviously been doing a lot of enrichment activities, but a lot of school time has been lost. Listen to this fact. 443 million school days are lost each year due to water-related diseases. So because people are sick from drinking tainted water, they're forced to miss school for weeks or months at a time. When you take everybody in these different villages that are still in the school age, and you add those together, you're looking at 443 million days of school lost because of tainted water. Girls under the age of 15 are twice as likely as boys to be the family member responsible for fetching water. So these young girls are spending their time fetching water rather than going to school and learning. The physical and time burden of water hauling was found to fall primarily on women and girls, who make up 72% of those tasked with fetching water. Less than 1 in 3 people in Sub-Saharan Africa have access to a proper toilet. Many people just go to a hole in the ground as their bathroom. There's no flushing, doesn't go away, just seeps into the water system. A couple more facts I want to share with you. In Sub-Saharan Africa, in the 38 countries for which data is available, hand washing prevalence is at best 50%. Now, with our own pandemic going on right now, you've heard over and over again how important it is to wash your hands for at least 20 seconds. And in Africa, it's not that easy to do because you don't always have a faucet nearby. And so at best, people wash their hands 50% of the time. That can obviously lead to many different diseases being transmitted back and forth between people. Some of those fatal, of course, with the lack of medical care and doctors. For the people who have to carry the water, the average container for water collection in Africa, they call that the jerry can weigh over 40 pounds when full. So think about that. You walk 4, 5, 6 miles to a stream to fetch water for your family. And the walk there is okay. The walk back, you're carrying a 40-pound or more jug of water back to the village. Nearly 1 out of every 5 deaths under the age of 5 worldwide is due to water-related disease. So it shows you that, and that's worldwide. It's not just an Africa problem. And this is the most startling fact, and the one that breaks your heart the most. More than 1 child in Sub-Saharan Africa dies every minute from diarrheal disease, a direct result of inadequate water supply, sanitation, and hygiene. So because they don't have water to wash their hands, to flush toilets, and to drink safely, every minute 1 child from Africa is dying because of this. So as you can see, this is a huge issue facing Africans today, and one that could be solved with money, but because of the poverty issue, it presents itself as a challenge. It's been tough for many villages to overcome. The last environmental challenge is kind of a natural one, and it's one that we've talked about before, and that's with the lack of trading along rivers and waterways in Africa. Now, Africa does have some major rivers that run through it, like Europe, that we learned about earlier this year. However, they're not used for a lot of the countries, especially those that are landlocked, for trading with the rest of the world, which hurts their economy. And the major reason is because those rivers flow over these cliffs called escarpments, which creates waterfalls and obstacles for boats. And so there's long distance of travel along these rivers that is prohibited because of these waterfalls. And so that keeps countries from trading with other countries and kind of keeps their economy down because of these waterfalls and escarpments. Let's talk about your assignment. So there's also going to be an article that goes along with this. It is about the environmental challenges in Africa. It's a short one, front and back, so I'd like you to read that. And then there is also a slideshow I want you to take a look at, and there's like 5 or 6 slides on there, kind of reviewing some of the information from this lesson and the first lesson. And then the second assignment for this week is going to be a Google form. So it is a multiple choice with one written response Google form. So you're going to go on there and you're going to read the questions and you're going to pick the answer that you think is right. You can refer back to the article, the slides, you can rewatch the video if you want, but try and find the correct answer. The last question, number 10, is a written response where you're going to tell me which of these challenges between the two videos do you think is the biggest challenge facing Africa today. Now, I don't want you to just say malnutrition or lack of water, but also don't, expand on your answer and tell me some details on why you think that is the biggest challenge facing Africa today. One more reminder, office hours, Mondays at 2, Fridays at 10. Pop in there, ask any questions, make comments. I'd love to see you and catch up with you guys. If you need anything else outside of those office hours, send me an email or hit me up in the Google Classroom and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Take care of yourselves. Remember, this is new for all of us, this online learning. So if you need help submitting things, if you have a question about how something works, if you have a suggestion about something that could work better, don't hesitate to reach out because this is new for me as well. I miss you guys. Take care. Bye.